Howdy, 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 all you cool cats and kittens. Look at us, back on the farm for yet another day or series of days to push closer to perfection without tools. Berkeley, what is the challenge?
Challenge is to just do everything that we can without tools. We finished the community center a while ago, and now we're just working on making friends, making money, selling things, finding things, everything involved with perfection. And we're taking it at our own pace. We're not over optimizing anything. No one has ever accused us of over optimizing anything. We're just taking it one day at a time.
Some of us are physically incapable of optimizing anything. Berkeley, you are currently not wearing any clothes.
Yeah, I thought it would be a real funny bit for me to just walk out of the house without clothes on and for you to go, Berkeley, you forgot your clothes. And then I could walk back in the house. But I didn't talk with you about that. And you didn't react until now. So, yeah,
I
kind of puts me in an awkward position.
I see a man in his boxers and undershirt brandishing a sword at the farm animals.
Not just any man, your farmhand.
My farmhand has gone wild. Oh, it's flower dance day.
Okay, I'll put my clothes on.
Do we? Well, I mean, let's not ruin a good time.
Do you want to go dance with some flowers?
I really don't care. But if it's good for us as our political goals here in town, then I guess I can
It
make
might be
myself
good for
do
our
it.
political goals here in town.
Okay.
Yeah, should we head there now?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah, I think just being able to talk to everyone at the dance is good for getting friendship points.
Is Pam a dateable character?
Nope.
What do you think Pam would do as your partner?
Probably the same thing she does now, which is just drink and drive the bus.
And live in her trailer?
Well, not that, maybe.
Your greenhouse is demolished and the trailer takes its place.
So, Pam's daughter, Penny, is a dateable character. And you might think it would be weird for both Pam and Penny to be dateable. But in the Stardew Valley expanded mod, there is like a parent and child. I can't remember if it's the mom and the daughter or the mom and the son. They're both dateable. I don't know their names because I've never played Stardew Valley expanded, but that is what I've heard.
Interesting. Well, we have talked about playing with mods. Maybe we will someday
Maybe we will.
when we've achieved perfection. Wait, Pam, I just saw you line up to drive the bus. How did you get here?
So I just talked to Willie, and he said that he should have brought his fishing pole, which brings up two questions for me. One, what if you went to a party and the local fisherman was fishing at the party? Number two, what if you went to a party and any other member of any other profession was just doing their profession at the party?
Okay, if there were a DJ, that would be acceptable. Any
Oh,
other
okay.
profession? Well, not any other, because like, what if you had a clown at the party?
Hmm.
There are some people whose profession is to party, like DJs and clowns. And then there's the rest of us who will not be winning any points at the party by breaking out. Oh no, I started the event because I accidentally
Oh,
talked to
no.
Mayor Lewis. What are we
Can't
doing?
accidentally talk to Mary Lewis. Babarma says just have to figure out who the mods are. Kind of funny that mods is so overloaded.
This is the
If I went to a
slowest
party
dance.
and you were there just figuring out where to put nuclear plants, I would be a little concerned.
You'd be like, "Who invited you? How did you get here?"
Who gave you a nuclear plant?
Oh man. Yeah, I would be concerned too if I was at a party.
No qualifications.
Nope. Berkeley, what is your screen doing right now?
Says that was fun. Time to go home. Oh, there's a little X that I should push. I'm sorry. Such a polite way to ask that question.
I wasn't sure if it was a glitch. Can I sell my own clothes? Ah, I can't. Can I throw them away? I also can't. Dang. Well, I guess we can't officially count clothes as tools then.
Oh dear, I am more locked into my house than I have maybe ever been.
Can't wait till we get that golden clock or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
10 million?
10 million.
All right. Well, we
Oh,
are.
like 5% there.
Yep. Berkeley, you might need to sleep in your house tonight because I don't think I'm going
Yeah,
to be able to get to you.
that's fair.
Berkeley has gone to bed. That's what I would do if I woke up one day to find out that a forest had grown up and trapped me in my house.
Just straight back to bed.
Yep. All right. Guess work's canceled. Bye. All right. Berkeley, in the world of books, you mentioned that you, I don't know why I called it the world of books. We have a Discord where we talk about books sometimes. It is not the world of books. It is our Discord. It is one channel within our Discord. Tell us about Project Hail Mary.
Yeah, I finished Project Hail Mary, which was just so freaking good. I haven't read a sci-fi that good in a long time. So this is by Andy Weir, who famously wrote The Martian. I had seen the Martian film, but I hadn't read the book. So this was my first Andy Weir experience, and it was super good. So this author is famous for just having incredible technical accuracy in his books. I think he runs a blog where he just like asks old NASA engineers questions and gets really good answers and uses that to write really good books. So that's what he's famous for, and that was certainly all true. Everything in the book. I mean, I'm not a scientist, but it seemed really scientifically sound. I felt much smarter after reading it. But that wasn't all. In addition to being like a really interesting technical sci-fi, there was just a very beautiful story that left me very emotional at the end. It is, I can't say too much about the plot because the main character starts off with amnesia, and it is a very cool effect to just go into the book blind and have no idea what's happening, just like the main character. But I will say it is an astronaut in space trying to save humanity. Things are pretty dire for humanity for very interesting reasons, and he has to go fix the problem on his own. So I recommend it if you enjoy sci-fi or beautiful stories at all. Project Hail Mary, super good.
I'm so glad I'm not that guy. Could you imagine that? The stress of having to save humanity by yourself.
Yeah,
It's tough.
that'd be pretty bad. I don't know. Yeah, when I'm like stressed about things in my own life, I'm very quick to question if the thing I'm worried about is actually important or not. So like if a babysitter cancels last minute, my first instinct is to just like not go do the thing I was going to do instead of like find another babysitter, because oftentimes to me the stress of fixing a problem isn't actually worth the solution, or at least that's my impulse when I'm feeling stressed out and anxious.
Yeah.
But you know, when it's humanity on the line, you can't be thinking like that.
Yeah, that would tend to not bode well for humanity, at least. All right, Berkeley, I've made some progress towards freeing you, but
Yeah, I can see you.
it's
Probably about out of bombs.
yes, I ran out and I am going to have to buy some more things from the smith, unfortunately.
Oh my goodness.
All right. I'll be back.
Okay, I'll be here.
Enjoy your unpaid day off.
You're not paying me?
Nope.
Uh,
Not
I
unless
guess
you
I
call a
deserve it.
vote of farmhands and unionize.
Oh, well, as the only farmhand. In our Magpies episode of our podcast that we did,
I was
was
just
that
thinking of that.
the local sheriff
Yeah.
who kept arguing that he was totally bound by union rules and he was the only member of the union. That was
I'm
fantastic.
I'm pretty proud of that arc. That was the first time I ever DM'd. Um,
I
oh
can't
no,
believe that was your first time. That was so good.
was that my first time? Because I also did an episode, just a regular episode of the podcast as well. I don't
Mm.
remember which came first, but it was either my first or my second time, and I was very nervous, but it was really really fun, and I think it turned out if you can get past the some of the voices that I do.
I love the voices that you do. Those live in my head rent free.
Oh, thanks.
Um,
That's Greasy Gus for those of you who are in the know.
if you want to be in the know, there is a link in our link tree to the Choose a Choice podcast, which I believe is only available on YouTube these days. Is that right?
Oh yeah, when I canceled our subscription to our hosting service, I thought it would be taken off Spotify, but it is still there. I am able to
Whoa,
stream it
really?
off Spotify. Yeah, at least I've been able to. So
Huh.
if
Do
you
you
have
think
Spotify,
you maybe
try
had
it out.
episodes downloaded?
No, I don't think so. They don't show
Hmm.
up that way, but I guess there's only one way to find out.
Cool. Well, Choose a Choice on YouTube or Spotify, and that was the Magpies episode.
That's right.
Episodes. There were
It
two
is
of
a
them.
two-parter, yeah. Speaking of that, I have been playing D&D with a local group that one of my friends runs, and they are all Gen Z, and I'm not usually one to bash on Gen Z, so maybe this group is built different, but they are some of the most psychopathic players I've ever played with. They actively enjoy hurting and stealing, and they framed me for a huge theft of some people I was trying to help very hard, and thought that it was the funniest thing they'd ever done. And oh boy, is it stressful to play with them. So
That is wild.
Berkeley, I would like to offer you as a memoir, as a token of this day, one single bomb. Use it
Um,
wisely.
as a reminder to never go to a festival again.
That's right.
Speaking of festivals, did you know that there's new festivals coming to Pelican Town?
Oh, really?
Yeah, and there's a 1.6 update that's planned. And originally it was announced that 1.6 was going to mostly be new support for modders, so the game itself wasn't going to have much. But I guess Concerned Ape changed his mind at some point, or had more time than he thought, or just had a delightful surprise planned all along. Because there's going to be, I believe, 4 new festivals and some other content as well.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah, it should be fun. There's also like new winter outfits for all the NPCs, which I love.
Oh, interesting.
They'll be
Okay.
walking around in their snow coats.
Yeah. It would be kind of cool because we're like in a valley. It'd be cool if there was like a ski resort or something. I
That'd
don't
be
know.
cool.
That sounds like a lot of work.
But Barma has confirmed that the podcast is on Spotify. That's awesome. Thanks for checking.
Nice. Yeah, that's cool. And then, if we ever get to the point that we're ready to post new episodes again, I could just renew my subscription and pick up right where we left off.
Yeah.
That's fun. All right. Yeah, that's really cool. I love it when developers continue support on stuff. One of my favorite games right now is called Easy Red 2, and it's a World War II shooter that is kind of arcadey, but has a lot of interesting elements, lots of little niche gear, and I don't know, cool historical care, I guess, was put into the game to add little neat details. And that developer, it's like a 1 or 2 person team, but they're always putting out new content, and it's always quality stuff, and it's cool. It's cool to see people passionate about what they're doing.
Yeah, we sure are lucky to live at a time with so much great stuff coming out.
That's true. Speaking of great stuff that came out, Berkeley, I heard that you beat the Baldur's Gate 3. I almost called it Thanos 3. What's going
Thanos
on in
3.
my
What?
brain?
Yeah, I beat Baldur's Gate 3. Yeah, we talked about this quite a bit the last time we streamed, I think maybe 2 times ago. This is a new game that came out 2-ish months ago. That uses Dungeons and Dragons mechanics and lore in a video game very, very well. So if you've ever played Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, it's just like that. You can be a monk, you can be a cleric, you can be a paladin, you can cast Misty Step, you can cast, what else is there? I just forgot all my spells.
Other types of spell, fireball.
Fireballs in there. Yeah, story was really, really good. I can't say much because Megan in the chat is playing right now as we speak and has not finished the game yet. She has finished the first 2.5 acts several times, but not the last half of the third act.
Was that intentional?
She started on medium difficulty, which was too much for me and too much for her, and so she's going through again on easy.
Okay.
And then is also playing multiplayer with a friend.
Berkeley, you probably have never played these, but I'm imagining that it's kind of a turn-based combat system where you're managing your party and like having them do stuff. Is that accurate?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for getting me back on track. I was just listing random attributes of D&D. Yeah, just like you said, turn-based combat. There's kind of a weird mix of real-time and turn-based, but basically anytime you're fighting, you're going to be in turn-based. And then you've got a party of up to 4 people. So you can play multiplayer with up to 4 people, or if you are doing single player or just 2 or 3 players, then there are just really amazing NPCs that you can recruit to bring with you. And each of them has their own storyline, kind of similar to the faction storylines in a Bethesda game.
Mm-hmm.
Like each of them comes with their own mysteries and their own problems and their own assets, and you can choose to do those storylines or you can ignore them. But if you do them, they end up being like really emotional and as well written as the main plot. So yeah, you can choose who you're traveling with. There's like 7-ish, maybe more, like main companion NPCs that you can bring with you, but you can only bring 3 at a time. So you can experiment a lot with like your party composition and who you've got when. Each of them has unique dialogue. Just when you're walking around, they'll like chat with each other or tease each other. Yeah, I think the most impressive thing about this game is how detailed the writing is. There's so many just like unique permutations of the story that you can have, and they have unique dialogue and like things written for all of them. So it creates this really immersive world where you feel like you know these characters super well by the end of it.
Yeah, and that must have taken so much time for the writers to put that all together.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm imagining they'd probably have to do that for any permutation of group that you put together, because the interactions between each prospective party member could be different.
Mm-hmm. And
That's
anytime any character has like a big plot point in their own personal side quest, like you found the special type of doctor that one person needed to heal the heart condition that she has, everyone else will have reactions to that. So you can like go around at night before bed and like talk to each of your party members, and they'll all talk about how proud they are of like this one character for having this accomplishment.
doctors
Yeah.
are a scam. Why did we save our dear party member? I hope they would die. Berkeley, I have to ask. So I played a couple games that were similar in style, turn-based combat. It's an RPG, and you're managing, a party. And I made it pretty far in the game to the final boss in a couple of these games, and my party was too weak, and I couldn't beat the final boss. But the way the game was designed, I couldn't go backwards either, and like do other stuff that could get me stronger. So I just had to delete my save and start over.
Oof.
Is there a way to go back in Baldur's Gate and like continue other stuff besides, if you face the boss and you're not strong enough or something, is there a way out?
Yeah, good question. So there's a few answers to that. So there will be lots of points in the game where you'll try to walk into a new area or something, and it will say, you should probably level up some more before you go move on to this next area, which I really appreciate in the game. In games, it doesn't ever force you to like stop what you're doing, as far as I saw, but it'll like warn you before you enter things. When you're going into the boss fight, it tells you very clearly like when you hit the point of no return. So what I always did is just like saved, and it lets you name your save files, which is kind of cool. I don't think I'd seen that before. So you can say like right before the point of no return on the final boss or whatever on your save file, and then if it turned out that you couldn't beat the final boss, you could just reload that old save. That being said, there are points of no return where like you are kind of locked in with your choices unless you go back and load old saves.
Okay. Interesting. Go ahead.
So in Dungeons and Dragons, you can get all the way up to level 20. In Baldur's Gate, you can only get to level 12, and it's pretty easy to do that before the final boss. So, like, unless you did a really bad job of accumulating good equipment and magic items, I feel like the last boss wouldn't blindside you with difficulty level.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I'm glad that they at least put some effort into making it possible to reconsider.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they just every part of this game was good. I really liked the mechanics and the overall game design, but what really blew me away was just how immersive all of the writing and thoughtfulness was. Like every song was good, every cutscene was good, every NPC was good. You know how in like Skyrim you'll walk around town and talk to the guards, and every guard will have like the same 3 lines of dialogue
And the same voice. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. In this game, so there's 3 acts to the game. In Act 1 and 2, every single character you can talk to, and they'll say something unique. In Act 3, it's probably about half of people you can talk to, and they'll say something unique.
Wow.
It's just, yeah, incredibly deep and detailed writing. Benjamin says, you're doing a great job at selling Baldur's Gate 3 whilst playing Stardew Valley. Love it. That's what we do here.
We try to convince people to do things that we're not doing right now. Like, hey, go do your taxes. They're great. 10 stars. Taxes, 10 stars. 10 out of 5.
Benjamin, I gotta say, if you're still here, I'm impressed with your username. I feel like that would be a tricky one to get. Did you have to like join Twitch in the early days or get a time machine or something to snag that?
Gets time machine, uses it to change their Twitch name. That's self-control right there.
I know that there's people out there that anytime there is a new platform, they just have to like go grab their username immediately. Reserve it. New to the stream, can confirm I pay my taxes. Thank you. Thank you for paying your taxes. Okay, Jared, you said you've been listening to Sherlock Holmes.
Oh man. Okay. So Sherlock Holmes, the original stories by Arthur Conan Doyle. Sorry, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. To you. Um, I listened to them as a teenager. Read them for the first time as a teenager. Then listened to them when I got my first job. Recently, I've gone back and listened to them again, and I have to say that those stories are full of weird Victorian oddness. Like ascribing someone's moral character to their facial features is something I'm glad we don't do anymore. Because there's a very well-known tale. I hope I'm getting this right. It's called The Sign of Four. And that's, if you're not familiar with the stories, there's Sherlock Holmes, the famous detective, and then there's his sidekick slash roommate, named, I believe, John Watson. And he's a doctor, and he just kind of follows Sherlock Holmes around and writes about him, sometimes makes fun of him, and usually gets proved wrong, unfortunately for him. But in this story, The Sign of Four, he meets his future wife, and you can tell right off the bat from the way that the author writes about his future wife that he's trying to set up this character to be like super attractive. But instead of talking about how attractive they are, the author is writing like the firmness of their brow spoke of a kind heart and firm moral conviction, and the wideness of the eyes spoke of tenderness. And it's just like, what? I don't know, maybe at the time that was normal, but nowadays it's just really weird. And another one of the early stories, there's a dude who gets poisoned to death, and the author spends a lot of time writing about how the dude was poisoned to death and he looked like a caveman, essentially. And so you know that he's a bad guy because he looks like a caveman. And like, it's just really weird to think about how much people, and maybe this is still true in the subconscious, but at the time it was all out in the open. People were like, oh yeah, definitely. If you have a heavy forehead, then you're 100% a murderer. You know, it's like, is that how that works? Because I don't think that's how that works.
That's super funny. Yeah. Agree with what you said. Glad we don't do that anymore, at least overtly. Although we did talk a few weeks ago about how, like in Hollywood, they still do that. You can always tell who's the bad guy by.
Uh-huh. Yeah, the way they dress and whatnot.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah, anyways, there's stuff like that. And then there's like the casual mention of injecting cocaine. Like, that's just something that people do when they're bored. You know?
Benjamin says murderer's thumb. Great example.
Murderer's thumb. What is this? It's time to Google.
Yeah, do you have Google up? Should I get Google up?
I
know
got
I've heard
it.
about this. Okay. I forgot all the details as soon as you said, what is this?
Oh, what? Okay. So, from Wikipedia, this is a disease called brachydactyly type D, also known as short thumb, stubbed thumb, and clubbed thumb, or murderer's thumb. And basically, if you imagine like a regular shaped thumb, I hope mine is a regular shaped thumb. Imagine if you smushed it and then it just stayed that way. That is what murderer's thumb looks like. And it's like a little shorter at the end and a lot wider. And it kind of looks like a toe, basically. Like a big toe was put onto the end of your thumb. So that's kind of crazy. But yeah, I wonder why it's called murderer's thumb. I guess maybe back in the day, like in the Victorian era, legally you had to murder somebody if your thumbs were that way.
So one of my coworkers was telling me about this, that wait a second, sorry, I just pieced something together. One of my coworkers was telling me that like there is, I can't remember if it was a true correlation, definitely not a causation, either a true correlation or a false correlation between having murder's thumb and being a murderer.
Well, it's got to be true. I think Sir Arthur Conan Doyle would say it's true.
For
So,
sure, and he was pretty smart. Maybe it's one of those things about how like all like 90% of crimes are committed by right-handed people.
yeah.
One of those deals.
Just by the way, since we're on the subject of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle being very smart, I'm not sure he was. He's a big believer in seances, and was very much unlike his character Sherlock, which surprised me because I thought, you know, a guy who spent so much time writing about rationality, I guess that was his fantasy escapism. What if the world wasn't controlled by random spirits only a fortune teller could give me access to? What would it be like? I don't know. All right, that's enough. That is far too much about Sir Arthur Conan Doyle for today. But that's what I was reading.
I love it.
That's how I felt about it.
I read a lot of those stories in high school, and I was watching like BBC Sherlock at the same time. I just think it's so interesting looking at all the different like iterations of Sherlock over the years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Use it to kind of get the zeitgeist, since people just keep telling the same story over and over in very different ways.
And it is kind of an interesting way to gauge the times. Did you watch the Sherlock films with Robert Downey Jr.?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I really enjoyed those. I thought that they were, I don't know, they were fun to watch. I haven't seen them since I was a teenager, so I don't know if they really stand up anymore. But at the time, I thought they were quite fun. And I liked the first season, and I think the second season of BBC's Sherlock as well. But yeah, it's kind of a timeless story. People are fascinated by the character and by the concept of being so good at reasoning that you can follow very complex logical chains from the outside. Even reading the stories and like getting quote unquote the facts, it feels like so much of it is just based on nonsense. I don't know.
Are you saying that you can't actually be as smart as this famously smart fictional person?
You can probably be as smart as him, but you can't get the same results because what he was doing doesn't actually work, I don't think.
That's a bummer.
Yeah. But it sure is interesting.
Sorry, I'll come to bed soon. Just selling stuff.
Oh, you're good. I don't know if any of you guys out there are interested in audio gear. I am. I've been fascinated by making music and the equipment used to do it for a long time. And there is a YouTube channel run by a guy who's a country artist in Nashville, where he takes different pieces of sound equipment and tries to figure out what makes them sound the way they sound. So he's done a bit on guitars, what variables in a guitar affect the tone, and what he does is he gets a bunch of different guitars, and he also takes apart guitars and looks at the basic elements and then changes them in every way he can think of, to kind of create a wide spread of data, and then analyzes that data to show how different variables affect the sound. And recently, in the last week or so, he posted a video called Tested, Where Does the Tone Come From in a Microphone? And if you're at all interested in the musical instrument industry, you know how much of it is sales lingo. There's a lot of Emperor's New Robes type of salesmanship going on, trying to convince people with descriptive language that is completely not objective of the quality of the sound and of how much they need to buy this thing to get a certain result. And people will describe microphones as being 3D or warm or whatnot. And a lot of it is kind of just made up to sell stuff, as you might expect, which is something that it took me a long time and many expensive purchases to realize. But this video does a great job of breaking down the basic components of a microphone. You have the internal electronics, the diaphragm, which is the part that actually listens and detects the vibrations, and then the grill. And basically this guy tests a ton of different microphones, compares them to this microphone right here, which is an SM57. One of the most common microphones in the professional music world, and shows you how their frequency response compares to an SM57 as the baseline. And he runs through microphones that cost as little as $20 and as much as $25,000, and shows how they compare, plays a certain sound that he recorded through them at a certain distance from a certain angle, so you get to hear the different responses and how each microphone treats the sound as well. And I don't want to take away your interest in the video, but basically it comes down to the diaphragm in the mic. That makes the most difference. And using special vintage components or magical fancy tubes or whatnot, not that important. To me, almost indiscernible. And I would pride myself on having a good ear for that sort of thing. So just a great video. Again, the channel is named Jim Lil. That's the name of the guy. And the video is called Where Does the Tone Come From in a Microphone? Partway through the video, he purchases a kit that has the same diaphragm type as the super expensive $25,000 microphone, and then tests it against that microphone. And they sound nearly identical. So I have purchased one of those kits, and it'll be getting here Thursday. So I'm going to build one and see if it lives up to the hype. It'll be interesting to see. Yeah.
That's cool. Benjamin in the chat says, your mic sound is very warm. I don't know how I feel about that now that you've said that's marketing lingo.
So since you mentioned it, Benjamin, there's an axis that this guy creates to describe microphone sounds, and I don't remember. There's 4 of them. One of them is warm. One of them is tinny. One of them is like boomy, and I don't remember the other one, but it's an axis, and he describes it in the video. And yeah, basically that warmth comes from an emphasis on the low end, and kind of the high end where my S's, T's, P's, and B's would sound being a little bit rolled off. So those high harsh sounds are smoothed out by the character of the microphone. So yeah, it's legit to call something warm, but calling something 3D is just kind of nonsense. And it's not descriptive, right? You can imagine what that would sound like, but it's not useful in creating an empirical picture of what that actually would be. But anyways, yeah, it's true. It does sound warm. You're right.
Benjamin also mentioned the difference between gain and volume, and I just realized that I don't really know the difference.
Oh man,
can you describe that?
Well, that's really interesting. So, I am an electrical engineer by training, and when I think of gain and volume, gain is the amount of increase of volume you're applying to a signal, whereas volume might be a instantaneous measurement of a signal. So if you plug this microphone into the preamp and you have the gain set to 0, the volume you get out could be, you know, -3 decibels or however, whatever unit you're using to measure your volume. But that would be the natural output. If you apply 15 decibels of gain, you would expect to have 12 decibels of volume, right? So the amount of gain you apply is not equal to the volume you get out in terms of a direct, if your gain is 15 decibels, your volume is 15 decibels. It doesn't work that way. That's my understanding. Now, I will admit it's been a couple of years since I took a class where we had to do amplification of signals. So Benjamin, if I'm getting this wrong, please step in and correct me, but that's my understanding.
To me, gain is just the thing that Jared tells me to turn up when my mic settings are wrong during our sound check.
Oh, thankfully, with your setup, it stays pretty consistent, so you only have to do it once.
I'm glad we've got you as our sound expert here. Benjamin approves of your description. I think we're good.
Thanks, Benjamin. All right.
So I've been reading... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think I've handed out fruit to everybody who will possibly accept it. And I should probably head out to the desert and check on our trees out there and see what they're up to.
Cool. Yeah, you might need to go fast. I think the bus is going to be done soon.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to cut it close. We'll see.
I saw you got an achievement. You were talking and I didn't interrupt you, but you got a networking achievement. I think that means like 5 hearts with 5 people or something like that.
Yeah, I got it by giving fruit to Pierre, so I thought it might have been maybe something with Pierre, but I don't know.
I don't think that achievement's Pierre specific. I think it's just like total some number of hearts with some number of people. I just forget the numbers. Yeah, if you're new to the stream, we are working on perfection in Stardew Valley, and specifically we're trying to get friendship with... Jared's focusing on friendship and I'm focusing on money because there's a bunch of buildings that we're going to need to buy from the wizard to get perfection. And money's just always nice.
That's true. You can never have enough of it. Berkeley, does this look like a fully grown tree that's ready to be cut down in its prime?
That does look like a fully grown tree. I would cut that baby down. Do you have bombs with you?
I do not.
Oh, man.
But that's okay. We can come back and do it later.
Cool. Can you check on the ones down below? We've got some that we're going to use for sap.
Yes, I collected the sap. We got 4 saps.
Nice. Do more trees need tappers? Yeah. Looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 need tappers.
So we have 3 here, 2 up front, and then 1 in the middle and 1 in the back. So that's going to be 6 total.
Cool. I will make some tappers then.
Is that 6 total? I'm pretty sure that is not 6. That should be 7. Yes, it is 7.
Sweet. And the reason we need... So we're planting mahogany trees out there to get hardwood so that we can eventually build a boat that will take us to Ginger Island, where we will promptly run out of things to do because we're not using tools. And we've got other trees out there for getting sap, for making kegs, for making wine, for making money. What a tangled web we weave.
Yeah, I guess it's been a minute since we did a tour of the brewery. So.
Oh yeah, do you want to show how that's going?
Well, I'm thinking maybe just a full walkthrough. So we have invested a lot in pigs because we like the truffles and they make money. And then also I think we're getting oil from them, ? I don't really do the processing, so I don't know.
Yeah, we're just selling truffles right now. We're not turning them into oil.
Okay.
Benjamin says capitalism at its finest. I feel like that would be a great tagline for this game because it straight up is capitalism at its finest. Capitalism in a walkable community where you know everyone producing and consuming goods.
That's true.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I'm just here like laughing internally and thinking, dang, everybody's thinking that this is a great escape, but it's actually just the same thing with a different setting. Um, so this is our bootlegger's paradise in here. I think we're making lots and lots and lots of wine from our various fruits. And one lonely pickler in the
One
corner.
lonely pickler for a jam.
And then our greenhouse, which we have, I think, converted over to mostly ancient seeds. Is that still happening, Berkeley?
We've got a lot of ancient seeds, and we've got a lot of what are the mysterious seeds grown to? Is that the spice or the gem berries or something?
I don't know. I'm not sure I've seen one of those. Full disclosure, I had only played like 5 hours of this game by myself before I started streaming it. So
Anyway, we've got lots of ancient seeds, and we've got some spring crops so that I can get my foraging level up so that our truffles will be more valuable.
yeah. Yep.
Benjamin
And
says 1,000% we did a better job at selling Baldur's Gate 3 than this one. I'm not going to apologize. It's a great game.
roasted.
This one's also a great game, but Baldur's Gate's a great game.
Baldur's Gate is true fantasy escapism. This is just what everybody did before industrialism kicked off. Well, I mean, it was this or like starve, I guess. So some people starved.
Yeah.
All right. Berkeley, where am I putting this resin?
In the green chest.
Okay.
And I realized that we've already got 6 tappers in there because I made way more than we needed last time.
Oh, great. Well, I'll take those with me, and then
Cool.
I will build some bombs and go harvest that tree tomorrow morning.
Good. Do you mind if I go buy some iron ore tomorrow so we can make more kegs?
I would love it if you did that. And if you bought some extra, well, I guess I probably should use copper to cut that tree down so I don't hurt the other trees. Never mind.
Mm-hmm.
Dang. 27,000 on wine, or 21,700 on wine. 37,000 total. That's impressive.
Pretty good.
All right. This is our last day. Let's make it count.
Just this stream, we went from 5% of the way to the golden clock to 6.3% of the way to the golden clock. So we're on our way.
Yeah.
Don't let anyone tell you different.
That should accelerate as well. Once we get more of those kegs going.
Yeah, we've been pretty consistently accelerating as we get more pigs and get more valuable crops going and more crops getting turned into wine. I think our biggest increase is going to be when I get to level 10 foraging, because that's going to make our truffles a whole lot more valuable.
Yeah. Yeah. What are you at right now?
I'm at 8, and that's pretty recent. So
Okay.
slow journey.
You've passed
Yeah.
me.
Well, yeah, that's by design. A lot of people don't realize this, and I didn't realize it until we tried our no tools run, but most people playing this game get most of their foraging XP from chopping down trees, not from picking up forageable items. So when you don't have tools and you can't chop down trees, that makes foraging levels much more difficult.
Kind of makes me think that maybe foraging should be called something else, like a woodsman skill or something.
Hmm.
I don't know. Concerned Ape, if you're watching this, those are the only notes I have.
Concerned
That
Ape, if
and
you're watching this, go work on Haunted Chocolatier instead.
please release a new game. Or don't. That's up to you.
Yeah, you don't owe us anything. I'm sorry. I want to take back what I said. Thank you so much.
I really don't like that the librarian wears a full, like, Three Musketeers outfit every day. Like, what do you think you're doing, man?
I think he's dressed as a museum curator, not as a librarian.
Oh,
That's like a totally appropriate outfit for a museum curator, right?
if you're curating at the night at the museum, yes. All right, let's craft some bombs. Don't do this at home, kids. Okay. 8 cherry bombs should be enough, right?
Oh, we measured it one time. I thought it was like 11 or 12.
Okay. I will be going back inside. Remember when we used to do sciencey things to be efficient?
I think it was just that one time, actually.
Oh man. Look how far the proud have fallen. 11. All right. There we go. Now we're ready to blow some stuff up with bombs. We're going to cut down a tree with bombs. Could you imagine if back in the day when they were doing a lot of logging out where we grew up, that it was just dynamite the whole time?
I've actually got a story about non-conventional tools for logging. I can't remember if I've talked about this on the stream, but my grandfather had a PhD in like forest engineering, basically how to like harvest lumber safely and efficiently. And his dissertation for his PhD was designing a system for harvesting lumber using hot air balloons.
What?
he he designed this whole, he thought it all through. There's diagrams, you can find them online. But yeah, you'd use a hot air balloon, tie ropes to the tree, then cut the tree down, and like you would position the hot air balloon in such a way that it would swing towards whatever
Oh my
body of water you were
goodness.
using to transport the wood.
That is so wild. I'm imagining being the guy who approves the grant for that and thinking, yeah, that's worth funding. That seems like a very practical way to spend our money. That's wild. So hot air balloons, why not blimps?
I think that hot air balloons gave you better control and like better ability to stay stationary.
Okay.
I'm not positive on that. Kind of like helicopter versus airplane situation. Benjamin, the coolest way to log. Absolutely. I mean, being a lumberjack is an inherently cool profession, but hot air balloons definitely don't hurt. Another fun detail is that I've tried to find a digital copy of his dissertation, and I have not been able to. But I did find a blog post in 2002 where someone like recreated his research on a smaller scale and like actually did it
Really?
using drones instead of hot air balloons.
Oh,
The drones weren't super good in 2002, but
no.
someone gave it a shot, and that's the only way I've been able to find copies of like the diagrams that he drew was, from this random blog post.
That is so wild. You said forest engineer?
Yeah, I think that was the title.
I should have studied that. That sounds like way more fun than electrical engineering.
Every time I'm like invited to give a interesting fact about myself, I have to fight the temptation to just tell interesting facts about my parents and grandparents instead. 'Cause they've done cooler, weirder things than I have.
You know, do you think that that's just like a life experience thing? Like they've been around longer?
I
Or
don't think so. I think they just lived more adventurous lives than me.
hmm, do you think that that's a result of growing up through the 2008 financial crisis and seeing the impact of taking any sort of risk at all?
Oh, you know what? I wasn't gonna tie my specific personality to the global events of the day, but I mean that fits the data.
Wow. How could the investment banks have done this to you?
It was so rude, honestly. Benjamin says, "Welcome to the club." And same. If you don't mind sharing, I'd love to hear interesting things about your family. I'll share another tidbit while we're waiting. My dad has the patent for the first stroller with suspension. And I think it's because when I was born, he wasn't ready to give up just being in the mountains all day. So I had to put suspension on a stroller.
And then he's like, "Wait a minute. That's actually a good idea."
Balloonist and logger sounds like a new character description to be played by Matt Damon.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Or
I would
like
watch that.
like a Wes Anderson film type of profession. It would be kind of interesting to have a D&D setting on like a city that's suspended by hot air balloons. Do hot air balloons scale? Or are they kind of limited in size? They must be because you rely on hot air and the surface area would cause problems.
I bet you could get other sizes to float, but you probably lose a lot of efficiency. Benjamin says we made a log cabin or zoo. What does that mean? Did you make a log cabin that was sometimes a zoo? Did you try to make a zoo and it turned out a log cabin?
Are you describing the plot of We Bought a Zoo with Matt Damon?
Oh, there we go. That's probably what that was.
No, it's not. I'm just joking around because we were talking about Matt Damon.
No, yep. He confirmed. He was making a wonderful reference that I did not get.
Ah, okay.
And grandfather was a nuclear engineer. Cool. Jared, do you interact with nuclear engineers in your line of work, or is it basically like someone creates the power some way and then you're in charge of getting it to the right spot?
So I definitely interact with nuclear engineers. I'm a power engineer specifically within electrical engineering. So my job is to model and test and implement like power grid things. And yeah, so nuclear engineers, my understanding of nuclear engineers is that they handle more the physics side of things and like ensuring that the reactor is behaving the way it should behave and that the fuel is doing what it should do. And then we're in charge of harnessing that output, right? And then ensuring that it gets sent out at the right frequency and voltage. And the fuel behavior and the power output are very much tied together. I will say that I know hardly anything about what nuclear engineers actually do, but their job is critical. And, my current experience hasn't required me to actually sit down with nuclear engineers, but yeah, they're integral to making sure that the reactor is generating the way it should be. So when you're working on design or upgrade projects, for a reactor, yeah, you have to you have to work with those dudes.
Benjamin also says his father was the first doctor to do a specific surgery in a specific state in the U.S. That's cool.
I don't know why I wanted to make a joke about head fall off surgery. That's
What?
not even funny, but that's where I was at. Berkeley, you read um, The Wise Man's Fear, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot about the short story with the boy with the golden screw in his belly button.
Mm-hmm.
I think that might be one of the greatest short stories of all time.
Yeah. Do you want to give us a summary of it?
Yeah, so it's been a really long time, so this is going to be very high level. But essentially, there's a kid who's born with a golden screw in his belly, and no one knows why. So he travels around asking people, do you know what this is for? Trying to figure out what's going on with him. And eventually he meets a king who has a golden screwdriver. And he gestures the boy to come closer, and he puts the screwdriver into the screw and turns the screw, and the boy's ass falls off. And that's the end.
So the context of the story is in the novel Wise Man's Fear. They're just standing around a fire telling stories, and I think they're like debating what makes a good story.
Yeah.
And then someone tells the story, and the main character is absolutely incensed. He's so upset that
Yep. Yep.
someone would tell such a long story that has no meaning.
Yeah, they really, really stretch it out. Like, it's a long story. But I just love that the ending is so abrupt and nonsensical.
It's so good. I've been reading a lot of short stories recently, and the more I read, the more convinced I am that stories are better when they don't have a clear-cut moral. Like they can definitely have moral themes and moral quandaries, but stories that describe people and situations are more engaging, I think, and more thought-provoking than stories that tell you how to do specific things or how to be.
Interesting.
Benjamin says favorite short story go. One I read recently was called The Nose. I don't remember the name of the author. It was so I was reading a collection of Russian short stories, and The Nose was written in the 1830s, and it's about a man who wakes up and his nose is gone. And he runs all over town chasing down his nose, which is like riding taxis and just pretending to be a general. And he can see that it's his nose, but no one else can see that it's a nose. It's very absurdist, very funny. What I appreciate about it is it's obviously an insane situation that would never happen, but the way that the character reacts is it feels like your worst nightmare, where he keeps trying all the reasonable things and the impact is unreasonable. Very, very funny. Very good. Not a deep one at all.
So,
anyone in the chat have favorite short stories? Or Jared?
well, I mean, I already shared the ass fall off story, which is, I think, how it's officially referred to in the text. But beyond that, I haven't read a ton of short stories. I've always been more of a long form type of guy. I'm trying to remember if I've read any other short stories, because that short story was part of a bigger text itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I have. I live in the realm of not. I don't know how you read short stories either. Do you buy a compilation and just hope that there's some good ones in there? How does that work?
That's how I do it.
And you said you weren't a risk taker, but that feels like a risk.
Well, that's what's nice about short stories, because like if you buy a collection of them, chances are some of them are going to be good. And if you get to one that's not good, you can just skip ahead. It's a small investment. You can read a short story in like 20 minutes.
Do kids
Benjamin
stories? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, good. Benjamin asks if we've read a lot of Edgar Allan Poe. I read The Raven in school, which is a poem and not a short story. I don't remember if I've actually read any of his. I've heard the plots of some, like The Telltale Heart and The Pit and the Pendulum. I read. I think that was by him.
Pit and the Pendulum. My favorite is A Cask of Amontillado. It's just,
is that the wine cellar one?
Yeah. Also, not to go back to this, but Sir Arthur Conan Doyle has written several kind of more, I don't know what to call them, like thriller type of short stories that aren't in the Sherlock universe. And one of them is about an archaeologist who is upset with another archaeologist, so he leads them down to this newly discovered crypt that he found outside of Rome in Italy. And it's like this amazing discovery, and it's this huge network that nobody knows exists. And so he leads this archaeologist that is his rival down into this maze of crypts, and then abandons him there without a light and like disappears. And it's just a very interesting kind of set, with the crypt being the early Christian church, back when it was still kind of illegal in Rome to practice. And so it's like, I don't know, just a fascinating setting and a weird story overall, but similar to Edgar Allan Poe in that it's like dealing with kind of the dark side of humanity with vengefulness and kind of a gothic setting, I guess.
We've had a few others mentioned in the chat that I don't recognize. Henry Sugar and the Black Cat. I'm not familiar with either of those. What are they about?
Henry Sugar. That's a familiar name.
Black Cat is terrifying. Ooh. I should probably read more horror because I can't handle watching it, and it feels like I should consume that genre some way, right?
Henry Sugar is a Roald Dahl story.
Ooh.
And I haven't read it, or at least not for a very long time. But
Norman says it's about a dude who can see without his eyes. Does that sound familiar?
It doesn't really. So I must have been really young if I read it as a kid. But Roald Dahl has several other great short stories. One of which is a kid who like combines all this medicine that he finds in his parents' house together and to become a superhero. So I don't know if that's
I feel like that's a dangerous message to be sending kids.
Yeah, that was written back in the days of, well, we'll see if you survive childhood.
Benjamin's taken off. Thanks for joining.
Yeah,
Good
thanks
to have
for coming
you
out.
here.
We'll be back next Tuesday if you want to drop by again. We'd love to hear from you.
If you're looking for other short story collections, I really enjoyed Neil Gaiman's Emma's for Magic.
Oh, yeah?
Bunch of fantasy ones. I think it's geared towards children. It'd have to be pretty creepy children to enjoy it, I think. Neil Gaiman thinks it's geared towards children. myself and some other Goodreads reviewers think that it's probably better for older audiences.
Interesting. That's like 12 stories. That's cool. All right. Berkeley, it looks like we are past our time. Can I help you finish up the chores we got to get done today?
Oh yeah, sorry. I just started another day, huh? Without thinking.
Oh, it's all good. We're in the moment.
I
And
was loving the
that's,
short story discussion so much.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I
good.
just let me go sell my inventory, then we can go to bed.
Okay.
But Barma says he uses his power as a sideshow, but a rich English dude figures out how to do the same thing and uses it to gamble and uses the winnings to help hospitals. Huh.
That's a good thing to do if you're rich, by the way. Just if you're watching this and you are rich, use your gains to help hospitals, especially if you're gambling and winning lots of money.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really not where I thought that sentence was going to go.
Yeah, me neither.
All right, we gotta end quickly before the person who rated us in the past and was so nice to do so is streaming right now. So we gotta end before they do. We don't want a repeat of last time.
That's true, where we end just as they all come over here.
Hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again to everybody for coming out. It's always fun to get together and talk about the different things that we've experienced slash partaken in. I don't know if you would call reading a book experiencing a book.
For sure.
But thanks for coming out, Berkeley. Thanks for coming up with this idea to stream. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for joining. Join our Instagram and our Discord and follow us on YouTube and Twitch. Links to all of those are in our link tree, which is in the About section of our page on Twitch or the description of this video on YouTube.
Come hang out with us, and you'll probably have a good time. Probably.
Probably.
All right. See you guys next
Bye.
week. Bye.